Not only accuracy, but cost, speed, privacy, control. One thing that people don't talk about a lot is that open source gives you like learning experience. It builds up your skills at training these models, which in the long run, in my opinion, is key for companies. As kind of like building features and products is starting to be trivial, right? With Cursor, with Lovable, with all these products, basically anyone can build websites and apps and features. Progressively, I think what is gonna help you differentiate and be successful as a company is gonna move to the frontier, right? So maybe it's gonna be your ability to train models yourself, optimize models yourself, fine-tune, post-train on your own data sets. And obviously that you can only do with open source, right? You can't really do it with an API.
Demand side.
If you don't use more tokens, you'll never escape the permanent underclass.
Just expand on that.
So either you use more tokens and you generate economic value, outsized economic value for the use of those tokens. A lot of people are doing it the boring, lazy way. Oh, I guess I'll just work 1 hour a day instead of 8 hours a day and I'll have AI do most of my job. That's the boring way. The cool way is I'll still work 8 hours a day and I'll do 8x the work and maybe I'll make 5x the money. Maybe not, you can't do this with a job, obviously. There's people who have multiple jobs. There's people who like start companies and start selling stuff. Get that economic value on this AI before everyone is using it in its table stakes. Because it's still not table stakes. If you don't use more tokens and generate the value from them, and capture that value. There's 3 different problems here: using more tokens, generating value from those tokens, and capturing value from those from the value that you created from the tokens. If you don't do these 3 things, you'll never escape the permanent underclass, i.e., as models continue to skyrocket in capability and the concentration of resources potentially happens.
Okay, let's talk about supply. What is going on?
Without the harness, you don't necessarily capture and convert the intrinsic intelligence in the model into valuable output tokens. The output tokens, if you're literally just a reseller of model tokens, you have no business. Because the model will get commoditized, so even if you're a model builder, you don't have a business. As an infra layer, you have some business on serving those output tokens. But as an application layer or a model builder, you don't really have a business if you're just a reseller of tokens that come directly out of the model. You have a business if you know how to take the model, grounded in valuable context, orchestrated with a really good agent harness, connected to the right set of tools and connectors, whether it's personal connectors or business connectors, and provide the experience to people in one single unified system. And the way we differentiate ourselves at Perplexity
build was, let's say you have, you're a retailer or you're a packaged goods company, and one of the things you do is you handle sort of transactions around trade promotions. Right now, you get all these claims from all the retailers and you have to process them, and the humans are doing it. You can easily automate that using an agentic workflow. And you could say, oh, I use a frontier model for it. But then one of the dictums I have is don't use frontier models for non-frontier problems, right? So this is not a frontier problem. You're not trying to discover some new material science. This is a repeatable, deterministic workflow, but that can benefit from all the mistakes humans can make and claims and so on. So therefore, you do need, intelligence in it. But you can take.
So I think the enterprises that are, I think a failure mode for enterprises is you have some idea of an agent. You take 3 months to craft a bunch of examples. You take another 3 months to build the agent. You take another 3 months to get humans to look at everything. Right. But the space has just moved so fast. Like the whole idea you came up with, there's probably there's just a better way to do it at that point. And so I think you have to kind of ship, you have to learn. This is another thing, by the way, that no one likes the answer for, but you have to basically redo your agent every 9 months at the pace that things have been. With these agent harnesses, if you're using an agent architecture from a year and a half ago, you should very strongly be considering looking at rewriting it on top of an agent harness or something like that.
And we're going to introduce Dreaming. And this one we're really excited about. But with Dreaming, Claude is actually able to self-learn. It's able to actually inspect over its previous sessions, figure out skills that it missed, lessons it should have learned, and actually apply those directly to memory on its own.
Obviously true that the answer is not that none of them will be. I think the simplest demonstration of this is an exchange. Like an exchange is just a software program, but the value is in the coordination that everyone has chosen to trade there. There's the most liquidity there. You get the best prices, either a buyer or a seller. And so it's not the case, like the hard part of setting up an exchange is not writing the code for the exchange. It's convincing everybody to coordinate around yours rather than somebody else's.
In many ways, the software was maybe there are a few cases of businesses where they built like tremendously like difficult to produce and test software, but for the most cases, I don't think it ever was the moat.
Okay, so I was going to ask you this. To what degree, if at all?
And that's what I sort of hear with the personal agent stuff today, which is like everything, there's going to be no search and everything will be just one personal agent. And I actually think the most interesting business opportunities are where is that not true? And so my rule of thumb on agents are the more considered the purchase, the more likely it is you'll use an agent to help you consult in that decision. For example, I do think like purchasing insurance, it could be one of those things, like every open enrollment, I think it's intimidating, right? And so if you had that friend who's an expert, you'd probably call them. I always joke, it's like when you get something, you like hope you have a family member who's a doctor so you can call them. It's like, this isn't to be called my doctor threshold, but it's calling my cousin Sean threshold.
Though is that code is a small part of the actual solution of actually putting something in customers' hands, and especially if you're now. There's multiple dimensions on which you can measure the kind of viability of vibe-coded things. For instance, if I were building an application just for myself, vibe coding is absolutely perfect. Now, as you move to larger user base or whatever, I think it becomes less perfect. Not that it can't ever do it or whatever, but that's kind of one criteria. If it's a temporary app that says I need this one time a quarter or something like that, I'm not going to run it. It's not like running my entire business or whatever. A better candidate for vibe coding than other things. So the thing I think we're further away from is to say a single person is going to vibe code an entire software business and do all things necessary in order to make that software business successful. Because that's going to involve the coding, yes. It's going to involve design, yes. It's going to involve UX testing. It's going to involve customer discussions and customer feedback. And a lot of this individual pieces we may actually have AI help with, but I'm not a believer that you can sort of vibe code your way into an iPhone app. And I just don't think it's sustainable. Yes, we have existing examples where, and you see this on the social media channels all the time, where so-and-so built a $1 million app on the App Store, vibe coding something and they'd never written a line of code before. Sure, we will see those examples. But as a baseline, I don't think that's going to be the predominant model. What I think will happen is I think we will have the equivalent smaller like software teams, people that says, I'm doing this for a living for this particular category. And it's going to be in categories that historically were too small in some cases to actually pursue because the economics didn't make sense. But it's still going to be small teams of people that are devoted to building an application that they will use vibe coding tools for. But it's not just a kind of one and done, I can move to the beach and have martinis or whatever, and just the money keeps rolling in over Stripe, right? I don't think that's what's going to happen.
But I think also the coders, the people who are expert at that, could do 100x more, like in the terms of the size of project you can do if you're expert at coding. So I think it enables both the democratization and the people that are specialized in those areas. So I think it's an amazing time, but it's also, it's also worrying because everything's going to change. So that's the only thing I can tell you for sure. Everything is going to change in the next 10 years, probably more than people assume. But that also, in any time there's enormous change like that, there's enormous opportunities. There has to be, right?